really happy to be here with you this morning. Really happy to see so many people. This is a really important program for us. As Jackie was mentioning, this consumer protection is something that is a core part of our mission and permeates the entire department. So our mission at DCCA is to protect Hawaii's consumers and service its business community with respect and fairness to the interests of both. And so every single division at DCCA has some form of consumer protection built in. I am very proud that today we get to highlight some work of DCCA's folks in hearing from Deb Sanehira at RICO's Consumer Resource Center. So thank you very much to Deb. I have to also thank the United States Postal Service, who has been a partner for so many years with us. So thank you again. And then thank you again to Jackie, who has been doing this consumer outreach for DCCA for so many years, and who is really the face of DCCA's consumer protection education program. So thank you, Jackie. And these are going to be tough shoes to fill. So thank you again, everyone, for participating and for letting me come and say hi.
Okay, thank you, Kat. So we're almost there. Just a few reminders for today's participants. Please remain on mute and turn off your camera during the workshop to avoid any distractions to others, and especially our presenter. Today's workshop will be recorded and will be available at a later date on the DCCA website at cca.hawaii.gov/NCPW. So if you have any questions along the way, please enter it into the chat, and the speaker will address it during the Q&A at the end of the presentation. So I'd like to thank today's speaker for being here with us to share her knowledge and expertise. Today, we have Debora Sanehira, the supervising investigator with the DCCA Regulated Industries Complaints Office, Consumer Resource Center, to tell us all about the resources they have available to consumers in Hawaii, how and why we should submit consumer complaints, and the importance of doing our research on businesses and professionals before we hire them. So right now, I'd like to turn it over to Debora.
Hi, everyone. Let me just get this started here. Okay. Jackie, can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay, here, try that. Not yet?
No, not yet.
Why? Okay, let's try this.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry, this is my first PowerPoint presentation. Hi, good morning. Welcome, everybody. My name is Debora Sanehira. I'm a supervising investigator with the Regulated Industries Complaints Office. Okay. RICO is a division of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, which oversees the various licensed professions and vocations in the state of Hawaii. So what is a regulated industry? Most people are not aware that a professional or vocational license or registration is required before you can work in some industries. The state of Hawaii regulates over 50 different industries. These industries are the kind that affect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. All right, it's taking a little while to click to the next one. Okay, here is a list of industries we regulate, which can also be found on our website. In all of these industries, some kind of specialized knowledge or skill is required before a person can become licensed. Doing business with an individual or business that is unlicensed can lead to health and safety issues. It's a pretty long list. So what we do and how we receive complaints. RICO is a state agency responsible for overseeing licensed industries and for prosecuting those who may be working without a professional and vocational license. We are the enforcement arm for the boards, commissions, and programs that are attached to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Division. RICO also assists with general public and licensees with understanding the importance of consumer protection and the licensure compliance through education. The State Certified Arbitration Program, otherwise known as the Hawaii State Lemon Law, is also administered through us. So what kind of complaints does RICO investigate? Some of the more typical complaints RICO investigates involves allegations of poor workmanship, negligence, or unlicensed activity. Less frequently, RICO investigates conduct involving sexual contact with patients or clients, criminal convictions, and the misappropriation of funds. Some things, even if proven true, may not constitute grounds for discipline. For example, concerns that a patient waited too long at a doctor's office or that a licensee charged a lot of money for a particular service are not usually within the licensing authority's jurisdiction. Other conduct, although egregious, may be criminal in nature and not specifically addressed by the licensing laws. You will be notified if your complaint does not fall within RICO's jurisdiction or if there is insufficient evidence to proceed with an investigation. RICO provides complaint history information to the public, including information about certain cases, including the names of individuals or businesses complained about, possible violations, and the outcome of closed complaints. The information and records you provide will otherwise be held in confidence unless disclosure is required for RICO purposes or otherwise required by law. How we receive complaints. RICO receives complaints from a variety of sources, including individuals, businesses, competitors, other agencies in state or out of state, as well as anonymous information. We can also staff initiate complaints. So how do you contact us? We have 5 separate RICO offices throughout the state, which consist of intake investigators, field investigators, attorneys, and administrative staff and support staff. Our offices are located on Oahu. There are 2 offices on the Big Island in Hilo and Kona, 1 office in Lihue, Hawaii, and 1 in Wailuku, Maui. Our RICO website is cca.hawaii.gov/RICO, and our RICO email is rico@dcca.hawaii.gov. Consumer Resource Center, otherwise known as the CRC. That's where I work. CRC is often the first contact a person will have with our division. We handle the intake for RICO as well as for the Office of Consumer Protection, also known as OCP. The CRC consists of 2 sections, the Licensing and Business Information section and the Intake section. LBIS is a call center that provides information. This is where you can check if an individual or business is licensed, check if there have been complaints history with RICO or with OCP, and check business registration information. This is a super busy section. For example, in fiscal year 2021, LBIS handled over 8,600 telephone calls and assisted with over 36,000 inquiries. Their telephone number is area code 808-587-4272. The intake section handles the calls and complaints. We consist of intake investigators that can speak directly to the consumers. We get all kinds of calls. For example, a consumer wants to build an extra room to their home and are looking for a contractor. You want to hire someone who is licensed and who has the right classifications to do the job. For instance, you don't want to hire a cesspool contractor to re-roof your house or a flooring contractor to do the electrical work. You want to make sure that who you hire has the right type of license to do the job. Another example, someone needs their car fixed. They want to make sure that the shop that they take their car to has the appropriate repair dealer license and that the mechanics are licensed as well. Another example, travel agencies. You saved a long time for a trip, or you haven't been on a trip for a while because of COVID maybe. You want to make sure your travel agency that you give your money to is licensed. Unfortunately, you have heard of stories where the money is given to someone who said they will arrange a trip for them and the trip never happens. Their money is lost. We also receive calls for the Office of Consumer Protection. Sometimes these calls can be a little more interesting. For example, a consumer said they found a pit or a seed in a rice ball they purchased at a convenience store. I had to explain to them that that was an ume, or Japanese plum. We've had consumers insist they drop off spoiled food that they purchased, even though it's a Department of Health matter. I had a consumer who said that the toilet paper they bought did not have the amount of sheets listed on the wrapping. Anyway, many other calls related to refund and exchange policy, not being happy with what they purchased online or at a store, scams, car rental issues, gift card questions, all those types of calls are handled by the Office of Consumer Protection. If the calls are related to issues outside of RICO's jurisdiction, an intake investigator will refer the caller to the appropriate agency. Most calls are related to what we do, and the intake investigator will assist them with the information, answer questions, and help with the complaint filing process. In fiscal year 2021, the intake section distributed over 640 RICO complaint forms and almost 300 OCP complaint forms. And these are complaint forms that were sent to them through the mail. This does not include the amount of downloaded forms or the complaints we receive online. Many issues can be resolved over the phone just by talking to one of our intake investigators. Besides providing telephone assistance, we handle complaints that are assigned cases. We review cases to determine if there are any licensing law violations by reviewing the Hawaii Revised Statutes and Hawaii Administrative Rules. We also have several educational brochures and other information you can access on our website. So how can we help? What can you do before you hire? Well, check out our website, cca.hawaii.gov. This is DCCA's homepage. On the right side, you can go to check a business or license. It's highlighted in yellow. This page has a number of online resources for consumers to check on a business, including licensing checks, complaint history checks, and business registration checks. Licensee name search. Certain services require the use of a professional licensed by the Professional and Vocational Licensing Division. Use this search to check out if a license is up to date or valid. Licensee complaint search, the second highlighted area. Use this search to find out if a licensed professional has any complaints or disciplinary actions. This search also has complaints history on unlicensed individuals or businesses that are doing work that requires a license. A little further down on the page is business name search. Check if a business is registered to do business in Hawaii. Find out when the business was established, the names of the people that are involved, and any other previous names of the entity. Please note that not all businesses are required to be registered. And finally, in blue, business complaint history. The Office of Consumer Protection enforces general consumer protection laws and investigates unfair or deceptive practices. You can find out if a business has general consumer complaints here. So why should you do a license name search? Well, you want to make sure the individual or business you hire has the right skills and knowledge to do the job. You want to make sure they are licensed. Here are several professions that we regulate: dentists, doctors, pest control operators, contractors, and motor vehicle sales. Here are some other industries: beauty salon and beauty operators, real estate brokers and salespersons, motor vehicle repair dealers and mechanics, private detectives and guards, physicians and nurses, and many other healthcare related industries. As trusting as some of these professionals may look, verify that they are currently licensed with our department. Okay, so let's do a license name search. Here, there are 3 tabs: license number, business individual, and pending application. I'm going to do the business individual check because I know the name of the business and not necessarily their license number. Type the name, I'm going to type the name Acme for Acme Mechanical and press search. Here are the results in yellow: Acme Mechanical LLC. Click on the name. Here is Acme Mechanical's general license information. You can get a lot of information from this page, including license number, legal name, status of license. In this case, they are current, valid, and in good standing. Active or inactive status, their original license date, as well as the expiration date. If you scroll down further, you can get information including employment lists, insurance information, and license class information. Please note that not all licenses require to have this specific information. From here, you can either do a new search at the bottom of the screen, or you can go search RICO license complaints history page. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the business check page to select license complaint history search. Even if the individual or business you plan to hire is licensed, you want to have as much information as possible before you hire. Although there may be complaints history, it is important to know how the complaint was resolved, and to keep in mind that the busier the business may be, the more complaints they may have on file, only because they have so many more customers. Once you receive this information, it is up to you if you want to hire. License complaint history search. Here, you can search for a licensee's complaint history. This is also used to search for RICO actions against someone who is unlicensed. Type Acme Mechanical and press search. The results will show as highlighted in the yellow bottom yellow box. Click on the results. This is a complaint history report. This report shows that Acme has 1 complaint which was closed with no legal action. Your option on the upper right-hand side is to search again or to print out the report. Now from the business check page, let's select business name search to see if Acme Mechanical is registered as a business. Again, please note that this is different from having a professional and vocational license or registration. Also, not all businesses are required to be registered here. Click on business name search. Check on a business registered in Hawaii. Find out when the business was established, the names of the people involved, and any previous names of the entity. Type Acme Mechanical and search. Select the result here, highlighted in the yellow box. This is where you can find the name of the business, when the business was registered, mailing address, and agent name. Sometimes businesses think they are licensed with the Professional Vocational Licensing Division if they have a business registration. However, this registration is different from having a license. Those are the 3 checks that I would recommend when you are thinking of hiring a licensed professional. You can also check business complaint history for complaints against businesses that are unregulated. Those complaints are usually handled by the Office of Consumer Protection. Okay, so let's say you see contracting activity down the street. You see a business name but no license number on their truck. What can you do? Is someone repairing cars out of their home? Did you see an advertisement for sale of more than 3 cars without a dealer's name? Is that okay? Let's say you did all the checks and entered into an agreement for services with the licensee, and now you are having problems. Disappointed, frustrated, unhappy? Contact our office to see if we can help. Go back to the business check page to see how you can file a complaint. How to file a complaint. Go to the top right corner and you'll see a box highlighted in yellow. It says file a complaint. Press go. Scroll down the page and select the Regulated Industries Complaints Office forms, highlighted in the second yellow box. Please note the blue arrow at the bottom. CRC also does the intake for the Office of Consumer Protection. This is where you can find the complaint form for the Office of Consumer Protection. Okay, once you select the RICO complaint form, you will have 3 options on the page. From the bottom up, you can select self-help letter. Many disputes and concerns with licensees are resolved through using our self-help letter template before a formal complaint is filed with our office. You can use this template to communicate your concerns to the respondent and hopefully resolve the issues. If this does not work, you can file a formal complaint. This option is pretty self-explanatory. However, you would not use this template when dealing with unlicensed individuals or businesses. In the middle of the screen, formal complaint. This is where you would report possible licensing law violations or unlicensed activity in any of the regulated industries. And then at the top, highlighted in yellow, unlicensed tip activity. Here you can anonymously report unlicensed activity that you saw or is ongoing or happening right now in any of the regulated industries. When you file anonymously, you are submitting the information to our office, but you will not be able to ask for updates or find out what happened to your report. If you do not want to report anonymously and you want those updates, then you would instead file a formal complaint, which is in the middle of the screen, especially if you entered into a contract with an unlicensed person. You can also file a paper submission for a complaint as well by pressing on the link. So what kind of unlicensed activity complaints do we get? Many consumers contact us many consumers contact us because they see something happening in their neighborhood or know someone who is doing unlicensed work. Examples of ongoing unlicensed activity issues: construction is happening on their street and you may think they may be licensed, but there's no sign of any licenses on their trucks or any shirts that have their company name. Another example, car repair happening in someone's garage, and you see cars coming and going all the time. Perhaps a competitor lost a bid to a construction job and realized the person who got the bid is unlicensed. So they may report that information to our office. More than 3 cars are being advertised for sale without a dealer's license, or a nail salon with many workers, but only a few posted licenses on the wall. Before you get started, you should download any supporting documents you may have to your computer. Also, once you start the online complaint filing process, you will not be able to save the information. If you exit, the information you entered will be lost. Be prepared with the information and download any documents you have ahead of time. Let's select Unlicensed Activity Tip to report unlicensed activity. The Unlicensed Activity Tip form is used to report ongoing activity anonymously. Again, as an anonymous reporter, you will not be entitled to any information about the matter once your tip is submitted to RICO. If you do not want to remain anonymous, you should file a formal complaint. You should also file a formal complaint if you entered into a contract or agreement for services with an unlicensed person or business. When you select the Unlicensed Activity Tip option, you will be asked if you have read and understand what you will be filing, and understand that you will be filing anonymously. Unlicensed Activity Tip. This is the first page. The form is divided into several sections. The first section is the activity information. This is the part of the form that asks for basic information such as the location of that activity, the profession related to the activity, and the description of the activity you are reporting. Location information. This part of the form asks about the location of the activity and asks for the name, if known, and the address of the owner of the property and other pertinent information. And that information would be very helpful for the investigator. It also asks when the work is being performed. The form continues to ask how many workers there are and the estimated time of completion and any other identifying information. The next section is the respondent information. The respondent is the individual or business you are complaining about. This area of the form asks for the name and address of the respondent and other contact information as well. The form continues to ask for a physical description of the respondent, if known. It also asks you to attach supporting documents you may have, such as a business card, advertisements, or photographs. You can easily attach any document that you have downloaded or scanned to your computer by pressing the green button. Finally, you have the option of putting your name and contact information if you're willing to have RICO contact you with any questions about what you are reporting, or if we need additional information. Again, as an anonymous reporter, you will not be entitled to any information about this matter once you submit your tip. At the bottom of the form, you finalize your tip. This means you have completed all the required fields and attached any supporting documents that you have. And once you submit it, it does say that you will not have the opportunity to change what's on the form. You also understand that submitting false or true or untrue information may constitute a violation, and that everything you submit is true and correct to the best of your knowledge. Once you understand all of this, you click Submit. This information is automatically transmitted to our database. As mentioned earlier, if you prefer, you can also file a paper submission of the unlicensed activity tip. Here's what the first page of the paper form would look like. The information it asks for is the same information that is asked in the online version. It's roughly about 3 or 4 pages. Another complaint filing option is filing a formal complaint. Here you can formally report licensed behavior or unlicensed activity in any of the regulated industries. Again, you can also file a paper submission complaint as well. So what kind of complaints do we get? Many consumers call because something went wrong. We can get similar complaints against licensees and unlicensed respondents, but there's more we can do to assist you when dealing with a licensee. If you deal with an unlicensed respondent, the most we can do at times is cite them for unlicensed activity. Contracting is one profession that has a lot of unlicensed activity. Some risks of dealing with unlicensed contractors are the unlicensed contractor may not have the skills and knowledge to do the job properly. One example is an unlicensed contractor in Hilo who was hired to remove trees and grade a piece of property. While excavating the lot, the unlicensed contractor caused a tree to break and fall onto the power lines, causing damage to the electrical box at a neighboring home. Another example is an unlicensed plumber in Honolulu replaced a seal on a toilet seat on the 11th floor of an apartment building. That seems to be simple enough, but what he forgot to do was to replace the corroded supply line at the same time. The supply line ruptured, causing leaking onto the lower floors. The property owner paid $288 for the repair. The cleaning cost, however, was over $150,000. Examples of complaints we receive: contracting, such as poor work, exceeding the contracted price, using the wrong materials, hiring unlicensed subcontractors. If unlicensed, a lot of people end up paying upfront for contracting work, and the unlicensed person never comes back. The unlicensed person might build a rock wall, however, to cut costs. He or she uses cheap materials or doesn't use the correct concrete ratio to mix. Within a year, your wall is crumbling and the unlicensed is nowhere to be found. Driveway cracks, house cracks, all types of issues. And yes, that is an upside down house. Another risk is an unlicensed contractor may expose you to significant financial harm should an injury or property damage happen. An unlicensed contractor sued a homeowner once or twice, claiming he fell off the ladder and was injured while working on her property. Because he was unlicensed, the homeowner is the employer. He wanted $17,000 for medical bills and $170,000 for lost wages. Litigation lasted over 3 years. Other complaints we use, other type of complaints that we receive: barbering and cosmetology. For instance, injury while being burned with chemicals while getting your hair done. A lot of times, if not licensed, that's a greater risk. Or possible nail infections, fungus caused by not following sanitation rules. Physicians, nursing, healthcare field. Some issues may be administering wrong medications, operating on the wrong organ or body part, misdiagnosis, failure to diagnose, sharing confidential information, or drug use. Real estate brokers and salespeople, vacation rentals, property management issues, buying, selling property and not disclosing a dual agency. Motor vehicle repair, exceeding a written estimate, failing to make the proper repairs, multiple repairs and still not being fixed. Motor vehicle dealerships not receiving clear title. If not licensed, they may be selling more than 3 cars a year. You might see that on Craigslist. Private detective and guards not disclosing a past criminal background. If they're not licensed, they may have no training at all. So let's file a formal complaint. Once you have selected the formal complaint, you'll arrive at this page. You have the option of accessing the self-help template that we spoke about earlier. And to be more prepared, you can read good to have ready. This means that you understand who RICO is and what we can do, having the name and contact information for the person you are filing against, and uploading documents into your computer. You have the option of reading the frequently asked questions, which are also very helpful. And if you want assistance because you are not getting condo documents, you can read up on what we have that can be used in getting them. After you've had a chance to read the 3 of the 4 options, or 3 or 4 options, you can press File a Complaint to access the Complaints portal. So welcome to the Complaints portal, filing a formal complaint. You do have the option of remaining anonymous here as well. But again, you won't be entitled to what is happening with your complaint. On the left side column, there are 3 tabs highlighted in yellow. The first tab is the complaint information. This is where you would put your contact information like your name, address, telephone number. You scroll down and you'll have the opportunity to put more information and an email address. Please note that in order to receive a copy of your complaint that you submit, you will need to enter an email address. Complete this entire area and press Next at the bottom right corner. The next tab on the left is to search for an existing licensee. If you are filing a complaint against someone who is in our database, the licensee's information will be automatically added to the contact details in this complaint. All you have to do is press Select. If you're not able to find the respondent, then you can choose to manually add the licensee and their information. The Respondent Information tab is where you would put that information manually about the person or the business that you are complaining about. First, you select the board type based on the profession that respondent is engaged in. Select if the complaint is against an individual or business. Based on what you select, specific fields will be available. Add their name and address. Add any website addresses if available. Select Next. Here's an area where you would describe your dispute. You can explain your complaint in the space provided. Your description should be brief and to the point. If payment was made, you can add information here too. These are further questions we have to ask to get to know your complaint better. If after we review your complaint and we realize that your complaint should be handled by another government agency, checking yes gives us the permission to send your complaint there. We also ask what your desired resolution would be. Although you may want the problem fixed, or you may want a refund or an apology, our main role is to enforce the licensing laws and rules. If you want your money back, it may be best to check with your attorney. Select Next. Add Attachments tab. If you already downloaded or scanned your supporting documents to your computer, you can easily search for them and attach them here. If you have not already downloaded or scanned, you may mail your supporting documents at a later date or when requested by an investigator. Some examples of supporting documents that we've received in the past that cannot be downloaded are dentures, a bag of bed bugs and dust collected from a vacation rental, medications, a pipe or building materials, a sample of undyed hair and dyed hair. For comparison, I guess. At the bottom, you would select Next. Certification. This is where you would certify your complaint is true and correct and understand that RICO does not represent you. Once you select Submit, this information is automatically transmitted to our office and populates our database. If you provided an email address, you can get a copy of the complaint submitted to you. As mentioned earlier, if you prefer, you can also file a paper submission of the formal complaint. You will be forwarded to this page, which give options to the different complaint forms, including the general complaint form, if none of the other forms apply in your situation. As you can see, we have about 7 or 8 different complaint forms, specifically for real estate, motor vehicle sales, motor vehicle repair, travel agencies, and contractors. And here's what the first page of the general complaint form would look like. The form, the information it asks for is the same information that is asked in the online version. If you do not have access to a computer, you can always call our office at 808-587-4272, and we'll happily mail a complaint form to you. You can also drop by any one of our RICO offices to request a form. So what happens after you file a complaint? Well, RICO investigates complaints where the licensee or unlicensed person may have violated the licensing laws. If a formal complaint is received, CRC will conduct a preliminary investigation to screen the formal complaint. We may ask for additional information or documentation and determine if there are any possible licensing law violations on the part of the respondent. Many complaints are filed because of a misunderstanding or inadvertent neglect and may not rise to the licensing law violation level. For these cases, we may solicit a response or an explanation from the licensee, which can often end the matter of dispute. Some cases are also closed due to lack of information or documentation or evidence. If upon review, we will determine that the complaint may involve a possible licensing law violation, we may refer the complaint to our field investigation or legal section for further review. So what's the bottom line? Do your research through our department or website before you hire anyone. If you run into problems, file a complaint so we can determine how we can help you. Thank you for watching this presentation and coming to visit today. I can take any questions that you may have at this time.
So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute. Oh, I see Sherman with a question.
Yeah, I came in a little late because I didn't get the original. Can I replay this videotape so I can start from the beginning?
We do have it recorded, and we will be posting it on the DCCA website. So you can check back probably next week, cca.hawaii.gov/NCPW.
And will it's in 105, so you're gonna have 4 other segments?
Yes, we will have 4 other organizations. They'll be coming to talk about consumer protection. We have the FTC tomorrow, and on Wednesday, we'll have the IRS, and on Thursday, we'll have the Department of Homeland Security's CISA branch, and then on Friday, we'll have the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. So come back every day, 10 a.m., and we'll have lots of other organizations talking about how you can protect yourself. It looks like there are no other questions. There was a comment though. It says, it was a terrific presentation and awesome speaker. Great job, Deb. And I agree. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing your expertise with us. And we now have a better understanding of what the Consumer Resource Center does for all of our consumers here in Hawaii. So thank you very much for being here today. Just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today at the 2022 NCPW Virtual Consumer Fair, promoting consumer education. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for sharing their knowledge and expertise during this workshop series this week. Please check the DCCA website next week for the recordings of the workshops. And if you'd like a consumer packet, please email education@dcca.hawaii.gov to request a hard or soft copy of the packet. Thank you again for taking the time to learn more about being consumer wise. I'll leave the email address up so that you can request a consumer wise information packet. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Jackie. We're going to miss you.
Thank you, everybody. This is my last week facilitating the NCPW Fair. So thank you for joining us every single year since we started back in 2005. So please check out our website next week for the recordings. Come back tomorrow for another great presentation from the FTC, and email education@dcca.hawaii.gov if you'd like a packet of consumer information. And thanks, Kat, for starting us off a wonderful day. Thank you, Deb, for all of your great information. And thanks, Duke, for your partnership over the last almost 2 decades. And thank you, everybody else, for joining us today.